Aloha, everyone. My name is Dewi Maile Lim, and I am so delighted to welcome you to episode 9 of Quickening. And Quickening, if you haven't been here before, is a beautiful kind of hybrid event that is a speaker series where I have been curating a beautiful roster of divine, feminine, embodied leaders to present on their thought leadership. And I am so delighted today. I'm going to introduce our three speakers for today. But today is the final episode of the first season. So, yay, celebration. It's been really fun to connect with women all over the world. And part of what makes this unique is we are recording this with a live audience. Many people do tune into the replays as well. So there is that kind of echo effect that carries on. And the way that this movement has been spreading has been by really each woman sharing the wealth through their platforms that are already kind of running. We've been mainly using LinkedIn events to promote this. And it's the other element that's been really fun is we've been having speaker connection calls sporadically. I had a few before we started the series, and then we also had one last week, I believe it was, or the week before, that was really powerful. And what we all have in common here is that I believe we are on the front lines of really anchoring in a new paradigm for humanity through our great work. So you'll be able to see how each of the women here today are doing that and bringing that forward in their wisdom teachings and what they bring to the world. And so my intention here is to continue the series going. We're going to take a month off and come back for season 2. So stay tuned for that. If you're here, that means you're all on the interest list to be kept in the loop. And please share this with any other women, friends, biz besties, colleagues, collaborators who you feel are in alignment with embodied feminine leadership or new paradigm business or collaboration over competition. That really is the ethos of what we bring here to the table and part of what keeps people coming back for more. I like our beautiful sister Elvira, who just popped in. Hi. So I'm really excited to, continue to bring this platform forward. And at the end, I'll share a little bit about how you can support us. There's a variety of ways, and you can come back as a speaker if you're interested in being a speaker. There is that opportunity for you because everyone's voice here matters. And also at the end of the show, so the way it works is I'm going to pin all 4 of us who are presenting today on, so you get to meet them. And then I will introduce each of you in the order in which you're presenting. And each woman has 10 minutes to present. So please keep track of your time. I'll also keep track of your time. And then at a minute till you're complete, that's when I'll drop your links in and you can share how each of us can continue to stay in your field and learn more from you. And then at the end, there is some space and time for the audience to pop on and for all of us to connect, even, speakers alike. Everyone can come off mute and ask questions, share what really stood out about any of the presentations, and generally just connect. So that's really the culture here. Everyone is welcome to share their voice at the end. And also in the comments, please share where you're tuning in from. We can be interactive throughout this. And just whatever is standing out for you too, the more you kind of highlight those points that are resonating, the more we can also kind of take them in and amplify what each of the women is sharing. So yay, thank you for being here live. Hi, Melody. Hi, Irena. Okay, so I'm going to pin each of our speakers now and introduce them. Just a moment. So here is our beautiful lineup of speakers today. I would love to introduce first off the bat Victoria Wright. Victoria is a natural women's health expert. She helps women who are approaching menopause to feel better than they have in years. Victoria is a consultant medical herbalist and health coach with over 10 years of experience providing personalized health care to help women get their vitality back so they can tackle life's big challenges with ease. And her mission is to empower women leaders to prioritize their health and well-being. Then we have Jaitara Jade, and Jaitara is the author of The 4 Sacred Laws of Sexual Enlightenment, a book endorsed by Don Miguel Ruiz of the 4 Agreements, which is one of my personal favorite books. She has transcended decades of her own inner journey to guide thousands of workshop participants and clients through their own healing and awakening. She specializes in sacred sexual healing and enlightenment. She's the creator of the Pleasure and Prosperity Program series and retreats for women, Deep Connection Mastery for couples, and a master facilitator of deep healing for all. Jaitara is a sought-after speaker, appearing on platforms with some of the world's most renowned spiritual mentors. And she's an elder, sage, dancer, and priestess. And then we have another beautiful priestess, Christiana Rodriguez. Christiana is an indigenous wisdom keeper and holy grail of the womb. She is no spiritual lightweight. She's a humanitarian, visionary, artisan, mother, and leader who brings forth the sacred teachers passed down through her indigenous ancestors. She is intensely committed to her sacred path of the womb's wisdom and teaches workshops globally on conscious sacred sexuality, conscious birthing, and rites of passage through ritual ceremony. And for the past decade, Christiana has been devoted to the sacred technology of her ancestors' womb mandala healings. Currently, she's building a sanctuary on the Hamakua coast of the Big Island, known as the Breath of God, and she's the founder of Yoni Rising Healing Practice, and her signature program is called the Sacred Gateways of the New Paradigm. Welcome all of you beautiful sisters. I can't wait to drop in with each of you. So now I'm just going to remove all our pins and welcome Victoria on. Just a moment, Victoria, I'll give you the heads up when to start. Yay. So excited. Okay, Victoria, you have the floor, darling, and oh, good, you unmuted. Perfect.
Excellent. So I have a slide deck which I'm happy to share, but I'm also happy just to talk actually, which it feels a bit more intimate rather than me showing lots of slides. But there's maybe a couple that I might hop on and show. So, okay, you've got hot flushes, night sweats, maybe you've got brain fog, maybe you're not sleeping so well. It's menopause, right? Maybe it's an early menopause. Some of you look quite young, so maybe it's an early menopause. Actually, maybe it's not. So our hormones are really, really complex and they're all linked. So we can start off with, our sex hormones, but there's also our stress hormones as well. And what we find is that influences our natural hormone cycle. So whether or not we're stressed influences our hormone cycle, and whether or not we have menopausal symptoms. So in actual fact, it could be that all of these symptoms are a response to stress. Now, stress is a really natural response, and having a stress response is a good thing in the short term. But let's face it, life's been pretty stressful over the last few years. If you've not had a period of stress over the last 3 or 4 years, then the chances are you haven't been paying attention to what's been going on in the world. And actually, this can have a knock-on impact. So I just want you to take a moment and think, what does self-care mean to you? Just maybe take a breath and say, what does self-care mean? And stick it in the chat. I'd love to hear about it. And whilst you're busy typing, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. So a few years ago, I was a research scientist and I was juggling family commitments, a high pressure job. I was running a multi-million pound government research program. And I was also studying for my herbal medicine degree. I was also managing a health condition called endometriosis. Now, I was first diagnosed when I was in my early 20s, and I've had various different treatments. In fact, I was put in a chemical menopause by the age of 30. And I'll be honest, it was pretty crap. And I put on weight, I was depressed. But the worst problem was actually the embarrassment of sitting in a meeting at work and not being able to remember the name of the colleague that I'd worked with for the last 3 years. So I decided to stop taking the drugs, and I knew that I had to change something. I needed to find a way of managing my health without all of the nasty side effects that I'd been experiencing. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm a bit of a science geek, a complete science geek, actually. So when I started my herbal medicine degree, I thought I was just going to learn a little bit about it. And if I was going to do that, I should probably experiment on myself and work out if it really worked. I have to say, I was pretty amazed by the result. I went from being in pain every single day to within 3 months being completely pain-free. Now, fast forward a few years, and I was in my final year of my degree. I was getting up at 6 a.m. to study and working late into the night on my day job. And at weekends, traveled to London to see clients at the clinic. And I was exhausted. So I started my own experiment, how to do it all and not feel exhausted. And I'm pleased to say that I made some really, really great discoveries. And in fact, I'm going to share some of my findings with you today and hopefully inspire you to take a look at your own well-being and what you can do to really support your health. Now, what I want to touch on are a few key strategies for dealing with stressful life, but actually it's not just about the sort of like feeling stressed. It's actually about really having a deep connection with your own sense of well-being and supporting that on a very practical level, because there's many things that you can do in order to really feel well. Now, let's just have a quick look through the chat. What have we got? So self-care means being present with our true selves, definitely. Self-care means honoring ourselves and where we are, for sure. And actually, these practices are really, really important. In fact, one of the first things I'm going to talk about, just a few strategies, and one of the first is actually having some sort of meditation practice. Now, this is really important because it gives us that sense of presence. It allows us to really deeply connect with ourselves. And it also allows us to calm down that immune system. So they found that actually by breathing deeply, really into the rib cage, into the diaphragm, actually touches the vagus nerve. And that stimulates what's called our parasympathetic nervous system, which releases and brings about a deep sense of calm in ourselves. Another really important strategy for having a healthy life is actually laughter. How many times have you laughed today? Well, it's evening here in the UK, so maybe you've not laughed quite so many this morning where you are, but think, bringing laughter into our lives is again a really good important. Now, I don't know if you've seen an animal when they're scared. They literally shake with fear. And what that shaking does, allows the body to move and to release some of those stress hormones, to release the noradrenaline and cortisol. And laughing has the same effect. I don't know about you, I'd rather laugh than shake with fear. So laughing actually allows us to release all of those stress hormones. The same is true with exercise, in fact. When we go into that fight or flight mode, we can the idea is that we need our bodies to function. We need them to move very quickly, to run away from the danger or to fight the danger. So doing some exercise allows us, again, that release of cortisol, which brings us back into that really calm and relaxed state. Another great strategy is to spend time with our friends. Now, I love this story. They've done lots of research on how to live longer. And they've studied octogenarians in 2 different countries. They've studied them in Italy, but in a place called Okinawa in Japan. And what they found in Okinawa in Japan is that, in actual fact, the reason why these people were living so long wasn't their diet. Their diet was good. They lived a diet that was filled with fresh vegetables, lean meats. But the key distinguishing factor between that and other countries where they had similar diets was the fact that they actually had a sense of community. So they actually cooked together. Older people weren't left on their own and to feel isolated. They were part of a community where they shared food, they shared vegetables, they shared knowledge and wisdom with one another. And this is, one of the key factors. So the quality and depth of our relationships and the breadth of our relationships is a real indicator about whether or not we will continue our lives until we're in our 80s. So spending time with friends and nurturing our friendships is a really important strategy for health. Another thing that I talk about quite frequently is taking tech breaks. There's something called micro stressors. And I don't know about you, but I've turned off all the notifications on my phone because every time that phone pings, every time an email pings when it comes in, every time Facebook pops up and says, hey, come give me attention, what that does is it puts our body into a little micro stress. And the cumulative effects of that are they're having micro stresses on and on and on and on and on all day long. And what we can do is, by stopping that, can really help to, again, keep our bodies in this nice, relaxed, calm state. If I've got time, I'll talk about some herbs, but let's move on because I want you to do some work. This isn't all about me. Nope, sorry, just trying to find the next bit. I want you to have a think. I've given you some ideas. What are 3 things, small things, they don't have to be large, that you could do that would really help you to live a healthier life? Is that going for a walk in the sunshine? Is that giving a friend a call to see how they are? Have a think about it. It'd be great to hear if you've got any ideas about what they were. And then I want you to just think about what would make you happiest? What would give you what sounds like the most fun? And then I'd like you to make a plan to do that and make a commitment right now to do that. Because even just taking that one tiny step will help to improve your well-being and to make you happier and healthier.
Thank you so much, Victoria. This piece for me about the relationships, I know that through that whole period of forced isolation that, we just went through, that people really suffered from having those in-person connections. So, just I knew it, but to have you say that that's a piece of our well-being, like I really want to bring that into the forefront for me. I just naturally do it, and I want to make it like part of my self-care routine now. Connection. Thank you so much. So here are some of Victoria's links. Please find her on LinkedIn and check out her website. She has several free gifts there. So you can be like me, like variety, so you can choose which one speaks to you and become a part of her community. Thank you so much, Victoria. Hang out because we can chat. I'll chat in a little bit. I'm going to remove your pin. Okay, Jaitara, you are on.
Thank you. I just realized I was unmuted throughout Victoria, so I hope there were no sounds that interrupted anything. It was quiet. Good. So I confess, whenever I've been in a speaker series, it's been a conversational interview. So I missed the piece that I'm just going to talk for 10 minutes, but I can easily talk about what I'm passionate about for 10 minutes. So let's go. So the theme of today's piece with me is the connection between pleasure and prosperity. So while we're living in this physical realm, I'm sure everyone listening is probably familiar with the chakra system. The first and the second chakra are the two energy activation points that are unique to our physical existence. The first chakra, the root chakra, is known to be, if we become ungrounded there, we can become unscattered. We can become scattered. It can affect our security. So it's known to be the chakra that's connected to financial, to security, to money. The second chakra, which is right next to it, is the sexual chakra, the sacral chakra, which is also the energy activation point for our creative energy. So when you think about it, before we came into these physical bodies, we were pure, non-physical, divine love intelligence. It was the sexual energy that made it possible to go from being a non-physical, divine love intelligence being to inhabiting physical form. Now, ideally, the sexual energy that activated that was done through love, but whether it was through that or not, either way, that is the power cord that makes it possible to go from being a non-physical being to being a spiritual being inhabiting a physical body. While in these physical bodies, we can also activate our sexual energy to plug more deeply into the spiritual realm. And because it is the sexual energy that created us as human beings, it is the very root of our creative life force. And just like a tree, if there is anything that's unhealthy, any constriction at the roots, we can never blossom to our full potential. So that's where my passion comes in. My deepest passion is helping people clear whatever is at the root. Whether it's old childhood sexual abuse, whether it's imprints from religious beliefs, shame, anything. It could be ancestral. I've discovered through doing this healing work that sometimes the stuff we're carrying doesn't even belong to us. It's ancestral stuff that we inherited, mother, grandmother, religion before that, whatever it is that's causing that, that's causing any kind of a constriction, a lack of full, complete expression as who we are as sacred, sovereign, sexual beings. So when all of that is cleared, when you clear any old karmic imprints that have created a crack, and this is true of anything that needs to be healed, it could not just sexual energy, it can be around money, whatever it is, then it opens up the pathways for a more fuller expression. So because sexual energy is the root of our creative life force, it impacts what we're creating in the world, and what we're creating in the world is what creates our prosperity. So it's all linked together. And years ago, I became certified in a program called Sacred Money Archetypes. Kendall Summer Hawkins, she's brilliant at figuring out the archetypes, the personalities connected with money. And over the years, it was my favorite thing that I get certified in multiple programs by her. And this was my favorite because of it just is so accurate. And in that certification, there's a quiz where you can find out exactly what your primary, secondary, third, the order of your sacred money archetypes. And this is a unique language. And as I studied this over the years, I found there was a direct link to our personality around money and our language around money with how we also show up in relationships. For example, I'll give you an example. I've changed the name of some of the archetypes. What she originally called the ruler, I now call the empress. So if you're the empress, you are the empire builder. You are passionate about building an empire where everybody thrives. And the challenge of the empress would be, because you're the empire builder, you're the one most at risk to also be the workaholic. So how this shows up in relationships, you know, your partner, if you're already with a partner, they run the risk of feeling neglected because you're so much about work all the time. So it's finding that work-life balance is the lesson for the empress. The romantic is my primary one. The romantic, we're the pleasure seeker. Surprise, surprise. And so if you're a romantic, you're the pleasure seeker, you're the hedonist, you need that tactile comfort, that sensuality in your life. And I found that those who are romantics, there's a high chance that your primary Ayurvedic body type is the earth and the water. And so we also are challenges, we run the risk of overeating because we are such the pleasure seeker. The romantic, one of the gifts of the romantic is we don't stress out and worry about money because we know, we trust there's going to be more where that comes from. The downside is we can spend very frivolously, and we tend to not pay very good attention to our finances and give them the attention they need because although we're good at it, we just don't like doing it. So we need to either make an effort to schedule that in or hire somebody. How that shows up in relationships is we can put so much emphasis on our surroundings and our environment. So the lesson in relationships for the romantic is to be full in the presence with your partner when you're with somebody, and to be also very cautious about healthy eating habits because we do run the risk of gaining the most weight the easiest. So that's just an example of two of the sacred pleasure and prosperity archetypes. Within a week or two, I will be launching my pleasure and prosperity archetype blueprint quiz, where you'll actually be able to take a quiz and discover what your primary sacred pleasure and prosperity archetypes are, the gifts, the challenges, how to overcome them. And there's 2 goddesses of inspiration and empowerment that I've put in harmony with each one of those archetypes. So yes, so that's the connection of between pleasure and prosperity. So if there's anything from the past and any childhood abuse, and I know from the women I've worked with, the numbers are really, really, really high. If you don't have a past abuse experience, you may have an unhealthy, toxic relationship experience. You may have had some influence through family influence of contraction, shaming, over conservative that impacted your relationship with your sexual body. And I believe the primary reason that we run into abuse, and of course the media plays a role too, of the distortion with our sexual energy, is because there's a separation and a compartmentalizing, a split of who we are as spiritual beings and who we are as sexual beings. And that's not how we were created. The fact is that our breath and our nervous system and our sexual energy are designed to work together. So as you learn to integrate that and connect with your relationship with spirit while activating your sexual energy, the physical orgasmic experience is more beautiful and more powerful. And your connection to source also becomes more tangible. That's because it's how we're created, or it would not be possible. So I encourage any of you, if any of this resonates with you, and of course you can get in touch with me I recently became a master practitioner of a new modality called the compassion keys. And up until recently, my primary modality has been breath work, but that was limiting because to do it properly, the person had to be physically in the room with me so I could do hands-on. With this one, I can do it over Zoom, so I can reach anybody anywhere in the world. And the results are so fast in one session of clearing the old karmic imprints from the past that may be holding you back in any way with your full expression of who you are as a divine, sovereign, sacred, sexual being, sexual woman. And once that happens, then we can imprint that, replace what used to be the unhealthy imprint with a beautiful, new, light infused, alive wholeness energy where you are in full alignment with who you are as a spiritual being and a physical being. Am I doing good time? I have another minute.
Yeah. Just wondering if you can share how we can keep in touch with you.
You. Well, the quiz, like I say, I was hoping it would be out in time for this, but it's not quite ready, and there's nothing else like it out there. I'm really excited about it. It's been technically complicated, so it's taking a little longer. So in the meantime, I do have a free gift offer. It's called Body Love. It's a guided meditation where you can go to jaitara.com and receive it. It's a guided meditation to guide you to fall in love with your body more deeply, exactly as you are right now. And in September, I am hosting a pleasure and prosperity retreat in Sicily. We're going to be in Sicily together for 11 days at the most beautiful, exquisite villa, where we have the largest swimming pool in the area, all to ourselves. And of course, we'll be exploring. There it is. It's back. Okay. So if this inspires you or any way and you feel a calling, then pleasureandprosperity.com is the link to the website that is all about the retreat in Sicily in September. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jaitara. My signal did a hiccup for a moment. Really appreciate you.
That's okay. We went into a pause mode waiting for you to return.
I appreciate you rolling with the format on a moment's notice. That's the beauty of living in the feminine and the unknown, right? That womb creation space. And
yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And I apologize if that wasn't clear to you. And you did beautifully,
No,
of course.
That's the way my brain works. Sometimes the obvious is not obvious to me.
Yeah, well, this is a very innovative series in that way. So that's what I'm loving about this, that we can have you share your wisdom and we can get a transmission from you and then next person as well. So thank you, sister. Please stay on and we may have some questions for you. I will now pin our final speaker for today. Yay, Christiana. The floor is now yours, beloved.
Aloha, sisters that are here now and any that will be watching later. I would love to be able to call in the ancestors of the Aina, the land that I sit with and steward of Big Island, Hawaii, and also the ancient ancestors of my lineage from the Chichimeca Aztec lineage of Mexico, and also the Orishas of my Spanish and Cuban lineage, from which I am a wisdom keeper and direct lineage of ancient technology that comes from the wisdom held at our sacred portal of our womb space. And feeling so much gratitude that we have come to a pivotal place on this planet for some time now, especially since 2012, when the galactic center of the universe came into alignment with what was at the forefront, which was feminine leadership and the divine feminine needing to express their truth in this moment, and why so many of us are here through our stories and also understanding through my ancient teachers that we are not our stories. However, our stories need to be told so that we can do a weaving work of past, present, and future here now. Yeah, past, present, and future here now. So as we acknowledge those that walk before us and our grandmothers, calling in my grandmothers and all our grandmothers in our ancient ways, and how they sat around fire speaking truth, and whether it was in hiding, whether it was in a place where they did feel safe amongst one another, we are now being asked to come together again at the forefront of this great shift and change. And this is why we are hearing more about the womb, more about this birthing center, that we birth ourselves through this sacred portal and birth projects and birth children, and universe is asking us to now stay in our own lane and do our own work and rebirth ourselves with our voices. And so our throat is a direct reflection of the cervix. Therefore, we are being asked to come into that sacred portal in order to, if it starts with a whisper, we start with a whisper until our voices roar, so that we can send the message out that we need to be dancing within our own feminine essence along with our masculine essence, so that we can even start shifting that language of the two. There is no separation into its complete oneness. No more talk about masculine, feminine. We're all wounded humans in this evolutionary process, and it's time to start having these conversations. This is the next place, and us as queens know this, and we're speaking this through our scientific mind, laboratory assistant, and laboratory technician for over 20 years, analyzing pap smears and working with OBGYNs and seeing the bullshit that was really out there for so long on not allowing ourselves to speak our truth through our womb, and disease and all the other places of disconnection and chaos and coming off center has created so much separation. And now we are understanding it's a reclamation. And we as priestesses, through these various lineages, are saying enough, and we are now coming into a place of embodiment and walking our talk. And that's where we're hearing the drums and the rattles and the sound and the ma and the, we are here now, and we are not staying quiet any longer. We're creating safety within our networks. And the ancient ways of my Chichimeka lineage was, how do we stay at the center of our womb space in order to have a direct connection with heaven here on earth now, and root that into the mother. So that ancient technology is asking us to remain within the precise point of the galactic center, which is our womb, because all life comes through our womb space. All life here on earth comes through our sacred technology of understanding that we birth life. And it's not about taking a course on 101 womb. It's about honoring our great grandmothers in ancient ways, that they knew this. And there has been this disconnection, and they're asking us now to weave into the now for our next 7 generations and the 7 generations after that. So the work that comes through me as a wisdom keeper is about, how do we go into that portal and understand our orientation. So it's about bringing in the directions, the heaven, earth as well, the ethers, bringing in all of the elements, the fire that we sit with here at Volcano with Tutu Pele to alchemize, the air, the winds, the waters that surround us from our tears as women for years now, because our voices haven't been heard. And therefore, why we need to bring all of that attention to that space that also, Victoria and Jatara also spoke of. So in that portal, we gain our wisdom as women. And that's at the helm of the ship is what's guiding us, not the external, but our inner knowing that can promote our direction in daily life and create a centered, rooted space so that we can become embodied feminine leaders and invite the men to join us when they're our sacred sons that come through our portal, that we're teaching how to live within their own hara womb and their own heart, to also be joining us to co-create a new world and a new paradigm. And these are the rites of passages and the sacred gateways that are being asked to acknowledge once again, because that has also been a disconnection from the past of honoring our rites of passage, of our bleed, of our mothering, of our crone, of our wise years, of all these spaces that have been negated now are being asked to come back into a place of great honor. And so this is the mission that I'm on since I can remember, comes through, again, my great grandmother, my mother, all very embodied medicine women and artisans. And so they sing their truth out to the universe. They promote that out to the universe. And so I'm on that trajectory and asking the women here and those coming to together we rise. We stand together and together we rise. So that's my passion, and I'm not going to stay quiet. And that's where I'm at right now. To reach me, Instagram, Yoni Rising, Yoni Rising, gmail.com. And then on Facebook, you can find me under my name, Christiana Rodriguez. So just Yoni Rising. And yeah, that's it for now. I'm not offering any free gifts in this moment. I have a lot coming up. I do have a book coming, Women with Healing Gifts. It's coming out on Father's Day. And a second book, Never Give Up, right, probably parallel to that. I don't have a date on that yet. So a lot going on. And yeah, I'm so grateful. I guess I'm the caboose to this 50 women. And I'm thanking Dewi so much for bringing us all together. Mahalo, sister. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, dear heart. It's been a pleasure co-creating and co-weaving with you, and just really, as you were speaking, felt even more than the words, the transmission in my body. So that I believe that is the way we are learning to communicate. We're remembering that there's other ways, as the words are spoken, there's ways we can receive through these antennas that we are. And like you said, be the bridge between heaven and earth. That is definitely what I feel is true for me in my, when I center and ground in, it's like, okay, what a gift to be embodied at this time. It's a sacred gift. So thank you so much for your transmission around that, especially for us women, who mainly is like who we're hanging out with here. I haven't like excluded this to men, but no men have opted in. So we'll see what happens next season. Thank you, sister. So I'm going to open up now to our gallery view. And if you have been off camera and are open to being on camera, now would be a beautiful time. An invitation has been made. It's up to you if you're able to or not. This is where we have an opportunity to connect with one another. Please come off mute and share your voice. Speaker to speaker too, like you're welcome to come off again, any of our speakers, and to share like what's resonating with you. Introduce yourself, maybe a little bit about how you what you're going through in your life, whatever you want to share. All of it's welcome, and just keep it brief enough so that a couple people can share. Pop off whenever. I love that you're in a pool, Melody. This is so perfect. Soaking up some.
I can just share something if that's okay. I know I've already shared a lot, but
Yeah.
I love how the theme through all of it was about relationships. You know, our relationship with others and the impact that has on our life, our relationship with others and the impact that has on our prosperity. And also our relationship with our ancestors and how that feeds through everything. It's just been a really lovely theme and thread that's been through the whole session.
Love that you made that connection.
I just want to say mahalo to this again, Dewi. Always. You always just bring in. And I just loved how the co-weaving and the story of how all of this just like came through. Like it knitted beautifully. I mean, my ancestors knitted a lot. So this is beautiful, like just how the flow of these just gorgeous women speaking to much neededness in this world, and I'm in so much love. I'm so excited to see what the next series is going to be, and I know we're going to be rocking it.
Thank you. Yes, and the way that we continue to like weave and knit. I love that analogy of the weaving. I use a lot, the knitting too, because both of them are like these tactile, like intentional ways of creating. And that, sometimes we follow a pattern, and when we have enough mastery and trust, we can also break free of those, kind of compartmentalized ways of creating, which I believe too is really the invitation for each of us, is like from this place of like trust in self, like we really can be present to what is wanting to emerge, because with everything that's happening on our planet right now, the narrative, of course, as we know, is one of fear and separation. And so this forum is meant to be a way we can see that, oh wow, we're really on a similar trajectory here, each in our own unique ways. There are these threads and themes, these ancient ways, these truths, these universal realities that are really, I believe, calling us forward to in remembrance, and also remembrance of the circle, being here in community together. Even though some of us have never met before, we can have a field of welcome, sisterhood and community. Thank you for being a part of that with me.
Yeah, I wanted to add a little bit about that. I feel like, we each have our strands that are made of smaller strands, right? It's like when we look at yarn, right? It's like it's made of the smaller strands, right? And those are woven together and then they make a bigger strand. and then that makes a larger weave, and then that makes, and it's like we each have our smaller strands and the things that we are weaving. And then what I find beautiful about these gatherings that you have created, Debbie, is that we're all weaving together also. Like we're bringing our thing that we're weaving for our lives and for our communities, and then we are weaving something even bigger together. And it's just really beautiful, because I find, like, when I really sink into that way of experiencing it, it's just awe-inspiring. And there is no competition. Like, we're all creating this beautiful weave together and ushering in everything that we have been talking about throughout this whole series together. And about the thing that you said about, this hasn't been closed off to men, but I feel like we just haven't really made it clear enough that this is for them too. Like it's not like it's embodied leadership, and yeah, it is a feminine style of leadership. There is like a particular wisdom that comes from the experience of being a womb carrier, I think, throughout time, and being a woman, whether cis or trans or whichever way, identifying as a woman. But it's just like that particular experience and that particular wisdom that we're bringing in. But that doesn't mean that it's not available or being offered or important that those who identify as men also take it up, because that's what the world is needing. And I'm just wondering how we can call them in, and bring them in and speak to their soul, so that they also embrace this style of leadership. Because it's important. We can't really do it without them, right? So, yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm my wheels are turning, like, for next season, perhaps it's more of a opening there. And to be honest, I really do love playing with women, and so that's probably why too, just because I've worked with men as well, but not a lot recently. And so yeah, thank you for that, because I'm going to really feel into like that invitation. And is this really, yeah, a forum for them too? I believe yes. And I really do love like the idea and the feeling of like women supporting women. And so it's like, yeah, like get in on some of like what we're doing, witness, and support. That's kind of the way I'm feeling, and join the conversation too, like going forward. So thank you for weaving and knitting that in. And I love that thread and thread and thread like that. And then there's also this idea of the web, right? Like this mycelial or like spider web with like, think of the web with like the dewdrops on it, and like each of the dewdrops are each of us creating this beautiful fabric across the planet, of activated presence, of womb wisdom, and of this vision that, joy, pleasure, and like prosperity, whatever that means for each of us, is possible. That is a birthright in actuality.
I think I just wanted to just add something to what you were saying, like, because I've held pussy gazing workshops, and I've held dick gazing workshops, and then at some point we wanted to do like an all genders like pussy gazing workshop. And it's a delicate thing, because we want the men to be able to learn from like what we're doing and how it's different, and it's also like there's safety, and there's recharging that is different when we gather as women. That is different, the energy that we have to put in when men are present. And I am fully for having curated spaces for each of those experiences, and like creating them with care. And yeah, like maybe there are ways that we can bring them in and still have this beautiful space that you have already created here. And that'd be really juicy.
you. Did anybody else feel inspired to share?
I'd like to also elaborate on when I speak into pleasure and prosperity. I want to specify it's those sexual pleasure is obviously a beautiful aspect of the pleasure experience, but it's our ability to experience pleasure, period, versus, running our life through stress, choose. Do you want stress? Do you want pleasure? It's also in our food, instead of just eating quickly to get through the meal, taking the time to savor, be in the full pleasure, being fully present with it. The pleasure of being out in nature. For me, I'm loving that. Is it Melody that you're in a swimming pool? That's one of my favorite things to do is to swim, the pleasure of being embraced by the water. So just pleasure as an aspect of our daily life, and women, especially men too. And I love that you're speaking into the men. But as well, when we're embracing life from a space of pleasure versus stress, and wake up in the morning, just even if it's a 2-minute meditation, just taking that time to tap into the pleasure of being in a body and existing in this world, then we create our life so much better. And prosperity as well. It's not just about money, it's the prosperity of health, the prosperity in relationships. You can have a bank account with 7 figures in it, but if you're unhealthy and unhappy, you're not living a prosperous lifestyle. So I just wanted to add that little note into the full embodiment of what it means to be living a life of pleasure and prosperity.
Yes, and that feels so much more expansive to me too, to allow ourselves to remove the filters or the boxes around, what it means to be in a certain frequency, right? It's much more, we could receive so much more.
Well, we're designed for pleasure. It's how we were created. And if you look at women specifically, we were offered this amazing gift. The clitoris has 6,000 to 8,000 nerve endings, and it's the only human body part created for the sole purpose of pleasure. That to me is like the creator saying, here's this gift for you. It's, and there's so many signs through nature getting that message. If you look at the orchid, it looks like the yoni for a reason. So we see ourselves as unique. It comes in a variety of shapes, sizes, colors, and it's very durable, but at the same time, so delicate, must be treated with the utmost care and respect for it to fully flourish and blossom. There's so many analogies, and just if we look out in nature.
Beautiful, yes, gorgeous. I love that. So we are at the top of the hour. I'm going to stay on a little longer if anyone wants to, but I just want to honor the time and mention that. If you have to go, please know that you are I'm so grateful. Your presence here has been wonderful. Anyone else feel inspired to share?
I want to circle back to this conversation, and then something that Christiana was speaking to in her transmission of like, how do you, she's talking about communicating to the sons, and how do we bring them into this piece of femininity, about even letting them, I can imagine for somebody to come and speak on this, the embodied feminine leadership series, and you identify as a cis man, like how do you do that? But I know that there are people who are embodying feminine leadership who are male presenting, So I would like to hear what Christiane has to say about that.
Aloha, Jojo. It's lovely to see you with your crown. I feel I need a little bit more clarity on the exact question.
Yeah, we run in circles together. I don't know what you're doing in your men's work and really helping them connect into the womb, and then how to have them be able to lead in a way that's more maybe in a feminine way.
Yeah, love that. Okay, yes. So the men actually, I find, work secretly. They want intimacy. They want a place of safety as well. And so I have been working with them for 15 years, one-on-one. And I observe them and witness them with their own womb, their own hara, Hara, and go into that energetic space. They have that same portal, those 72,000 nadis, and that energy right at that space, and find that a lot of them hold a lot of contractions in that space, and also convoluted energy and courting. So I work with them the same way I do the women. And this allows them to drop deeper into that cauldron that they hold within those hip sockets, within their lingam, within their magic wand, and also within their heart space, which allows their heart to open up into more radiance with their own divine feminine. And that comes into a place of balance within their own sacred temple. And they're able to, what I've witnessed is they're able to have greater communication, conscious, clear communication with their own femininity, and being able to be more expressive in their outward daily walk, whether that expression is through sound, with their own voice, with art, with how they show up for their partners, how they show up for the sisters. And so the work isn't any different that I do with the men than I do with the women. However, what I notice with the men is that I have to send out the invitation. They need the invitation to know that they can approach. And that's really what I feel the divine feminine is teaching the masculine, to honor the temple before approaching even the gateway, not to penetrate, not to take, not to war, not to take over, but they're also waiting to see how they can come forward and honor what we're asking of them, which is to show up. So the sacred sons that I've been doing work with out in Maui, probably it started about 5 years ago. They are now just concentrating on themselves and their own wounding, and they have a portal that started on that island and now is all over the globe in many places. And I just feel, from my understanding of working with them, that they're just not quite ready yet. They have a lot of wounding themselves that they're working with within their own circles. And I feel the time will come, because it's been on and off touching base with circles. With men, they're just not quite ready. So yeah, I wasn't able to read everything Dewi wrote, but if that assists you and with your question.
Yeah, because I've had some definitely like men come out of the woodworks. I mean, I don't really specify gender in with who I work with, but you're very accurate in that piece of the invitation. And there's something that they're witnessing in what we are doing, and there is the piece of like wanting, very attracted to the feminine, but in a way that's like there's ways to teach that, right? There's ways to teach that non-penetrating energy, like you were saying, of like. And I think it's, it goes back to our ancestors and the way that our ancestors held each other in community. And then there was the great like kind of divide, when patriarchy came as, king essentially. But I think we're heading our ways back there. But there's a lot that's happened because of the patriarchy. Yeah. So lots of healing to be done.
Yes, indeed. Lots of healing to be done for the evolutionary process of all humans, for certain.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to wrap us up now, just to honor our time. I deeply bow to each of you. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Jaitara. And thank you, Christiana, for taking time to be here with us, to share your wisdom. I love the way that the threads and the knitting happened, the weaving happened today. each of you, Melody, Joanna, everyone who's been able to participate, and those who are going to listen to the replay, please reach out to each of these women and connect with them. That's the way we continue to co-weave together. I am going to have a opportunity soon to sit in on one of my other community gatherings through Rebel Heart Creatrix Mind that I'm doing, which some of the ladies here are part of. So stay tuned for that. It's a incubator for thought leadership and really getting into the next layer of your embodied feminine wisdom. So if you're interested in that and being in a community that's doing that and co-creating that together, that's what Rebel Heart's about. And then I put in a link for our donation page. If anyone's inspired by what we're doing here, been touched in any way, or if you support our movement and message, please consider making a love offering. And just know that I look forward to our next interaction. I deeply appreciate each of you. And please spread the word about this and look for the announcement of when we're going to start our second season. Thank you all for being a part of season 1 with me. Have a beautiful day.
Much love.
Bye-bye. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a good
Aloha.
Thank you
Bye.
for the invitation.
Bye.
Good talk.
Aloha.